Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Scott Schilling Speaks. I'm your host, Scott Schilling. Excited about this show for a number of reasons. A longtime friend, Kelli Calabrese, will be here. She is the CEO and founder of Intentionally Fabulous. Now, she has been in the health and wellness industry for years. She has been a national and renowned expert in that space, and just an amazing person, a woman of God, and went through something that rocked her world. And like many people, you take what happens and you turn it into something not only better for you, but for all. So, Kelli, welcome to Scott Schilling Speaks.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. I'm so happy to be here.
So, can we pull back the curtain a little bit and let everybody know that you give a little bit of the story that set Intentionally Fabulous into action?
Okay. Well, Scott, I thought I had it all together. In fact, when I met you, I thought I had it all together. I think there were times in our lives we all did. I was married for 24 years, living in a beautiful home and in a state community with great friends, renowned in my industry. My kids were healthy and doing well athletically and academically. I had an adoring husband, and so I thought. And he came home after 24 years and said, "My commitment to our marriage is zero." And he left. And it floored me. Everyone's got that turning point in their life, and that was it for me. I mean, it really took me out. It took me to my knees. It emptied me out, made me question everything in my life. I felt like a tornado came in and just scattered my life everywhere and left this gaping, painful hole in my heart. And I realized, my identity was really lined up with being a wife, and now I needed to figure out who I was. So I went on a 3-year sabbatical to try and figure that out. And I did a lot of different things in that season, and finally became just healthy and readjusted and even fabulous on the other side, and really felt led to help other people do the same.
Yeah, just again, being friends and having known you through that process. And I know how devastating it was. I felt that devastation with you and for you, and um, been there myself. So got it from the male side too. So I get that as well. So you said you did a lot of seeking. What in that 3-year period? Now, that's not a short period of time. You've worked at this to grasp understanding. What are some of the things that you did that helped you, come out the other side so significantly better?
Yeah, well, on this journey, Scott, I'm sorry, I'm just grabbing my mic now. On this journey, I went to divorce recovery. I was in Bible study. I went to the prayer groups. I was at the retreats. I was reading the books, listening to the sermons. I mean, I'm a knowledge person and I needed to figure this out. I wanted to learn what was my part in it, because it wasn't 100% him and 0% me. It never is. And if I was going to move on and be healthy and happy and abundant and a great mom and friend and future spouse, I needed to really figure these things out. So the first thing really was, who am I and whose am I? I was at the season where my kids were getting ready to go off to college. So my role as a wife, as a mom, was changing. My brain was so fogged over. It was really difficult to be at the top professionally anymore. So that was all slipping away. Your friend group changes when everyone's couples and now you're a single. So much was changing. And so I definitely did an even deeper dive into my faith. Forgiveness was a huge part. I wish I could say that was the first thing that I did, but it was one of the last pieces. And it was palpable. I mean, when I finally got to forgiving myself, I could feel the freedom in that. So that was huge. I had to renew my mind, because I kept telling that sad, unjust story of all the unmet dreams and the shattered expectations. So I needed to stop living in the past. And I also needed to realize I still have a purpose on my life, even though this isn't the story I thought it would have. Nobody has the story that they thought they would had. And I needed to get from that place of victim and poverty, which I had never been, the place of depression where I had never been. It was a situational type of depression, and get back up again. I had to be resilient again. and learn to really enjoy and celebrate life in a way that I wasn't before. And so that's one of the blessings on the other side of the hardship is I have more joy than I've ever had.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure. You said something very interesting there, that none of us really lives the story that we set out to. I mean, we've got an original idea. We get into things for really good reasons, and we're not going down that path. And there are twists and turns no matter who you are. And so, in stopping and getting, I'm sure there was plenty of quiet time and plenty of um, seeking wise counsel, but also just really feeling it out for yourself. What do you think helped you the most through that time? Because again, I, I saw you a fair amount through that time as well.
You did. You were such a huge part of the healing. So, one of the things was wise friends, good counsel, the ones in those door kicking, dark, ugly cry moments that you could be real and be yourself and be raw and even just get things out of you sometimes just to get them out and to know you're not crazy. And to just have friends sit with you, like you did. And we had a little group that met once a month, and that was so valuable to me in that first year. So it was definitely a combination of things, the close connections and the friendships. I don't know how you do it without God. I don't know how you do it without friends. I don't know how you do it without health, without wealth. I mean, there's a lot of things that would be ideal to have all those things in place when your life blows up. But I work with a lot of women who don't. I mean, they leave with the clothes on their back and they're staying in someone's trailer on the side of the railroad tracks, and they don't know where their next meal is coming from with their 4 kids. So sometimes, money is an issue. In fact, it's the biggest group of poverty is single moms. If they don't remarry, their odds of poverty are really good. And that's one of the things that I train women to have an abundance mindset. Um, yeah, there were many, many things. And I'm thankful that I had my friends, my faith, my health. There are many women who come into this not healthy. And now they're wondering, how am I going to get health insurance if they were on their husband's plan? I was already sick, but now when you add the emotional stress, now you've got migraines and gut issues, and your body is going to respond when there's that kind of an emotional trauma. It's going to show up physically. So that's really one of the reasons why I created the program I wished I had, because there's so many things out of your control. But if you can just start with a few things that you can do something about, like your faith, like what you're putting in your mouth, what you're putting in your mind information wise, and what you're not, you have a choice in what you do and what you don't do.
Well, and that's what I congratulate you for. Again, the show here is designed to, bring to life the voice that you have. If you have one, then it's to expand it and get it out here. And this is what you're doing is so tremendously valuable. Number one, congratulations, and honored to call you friend. With the fact that you have come through this, but now you've taken this, and like you said, you've now built the program you wish was available to you as you were facing this. And so how can you shave off months of, or even years of depression and bitterness and sadness and anger and all the stuff that comes with a situation like this?
Yes. Well, something I didn't know about before divorce, and it wasn't that I hadn't gone through hard things. I mean, I lost my dad, my best friend to cancer. I'd been sued in a real estate transaction. I've been in car accidents. I mean, you live long enough, stuff's going to happen. But in all my years of studying personal development, had never come across the grief cycle. And I was at a retreat with a woman there, and she introduced it to us. And then right after that, I found out that my former husband was remarried. It was only a few months after our divorce. He was re-engaged within a month and really quickly remarried. And that was another trigger that hit me again. It really just sent me down again. And so I met with her and she said, Kelli, you're depressed and that's good. I was like, what do you mean? Nothing about this feels good at all. And she pulled out this grief cycle, and it's a curve, and no one goes through it in the curve. We bounce and we jump and we're here, and then we're angry, and then we're sad, and then we're bitter, and then And so if you can understand that grief cycle and recognize where you are, it's helpful. It's knowledge. The knowledge and wisdom really does help. And when I saw depression was kind of on the up curve, and I had already been through, sadness and grief and anger and denial and shock and bitterness, all these other things. And I was so close to being healthy and readjusted, it somehow gave me hope. So, in meeting with the women that I work with, I can tell pretty quickly where they're stuck and even stopped. And you can almost tell when you meet someone that's gone through some difficult grief, whether it's divorce or unemployment, loss of a job, that they carry this energy. And are they at that victim place? And I can see now, understanding grief, where they're stuck and stopped, and help to move them along out of that with some exercises, with some truth, and we can get them, just moving ahead and not staying there, for example, just repeating the same story, feeling like a victim. Obviously, they have a part to play, but with a good coach, we get them moved on.
Yeah, it's again, I applaud you for going through it. And sometimes well, God's plan and timing is perfect. Let's just put it the way that it is. Does it
Never
and
late.
never late, never early, seemingly just on time. And the other side is there's a pretty good manual that says all things work together for our good. It doesn't say all things are good, and it doesn't say all things are easy, but it does say that they work together for our good. So living through it, this is not you're not sharing theory with anybody at this point. You're sharing the wisdom that you've gained, obviously through knowledge, but also you've lived this, and that's got to be a tremendous asset to those you're working with.
It does. I had friends go through divorce prior to mine. And when someone tells you you're going through divorce, you don't get it. You don't understand. You don't know the depths of it. It's like if someone says their house burned down and your house has never burned down. Or if they have abortion, you've never had an abortion, you've never been fired, you never lost your company. Unless you've done it, I mean, you can sit with the person and there's value in that, but you just don't get it. Unless you've lost a child, you don't know. So now I could say I was a terrible friend to my friends. I mean, I really didn't get it. But as a friend, we're not equipped. We don't know how to help them. So knowing what I now know, I can help my friends and clients move along quicker. And again, using truth, like you said, there's things out there that are true. Like in the world, there will be trouble. When you understand it's not just all going to be perfect and excellent and beautiful and fun and happy all the time. No, it's going to be hard. There's going to be trouble, but beauty for ashes, but it's all going to work together. And sometimes it's hard to see when you're in it. That friend who comes along and goes, "Count it all joy. You'll be better off without him." You're probably not ready to hear that in the beginning, but eventually you'll get to a place where you'll say, yeah, I'm glad I went through the hardness because I'm better. Could I still be sad and grieve about it? Yes, but wow, I'm better because of it.
Well, and you said the word earlier, and what so intuitively, what just popped up to me is the word seasons, right? And I don't think anybody ever gets into, and maybe that's an over rationalization, but I don't think anybody ever gets married or gets into something to not make it work. And now you might have different ideas and you might not put in the work, and there are potential reasons for all that, but I don't think anybody purposefully does that, because why would you? That doesn't make any sense to me. So now you go through this, and all of a sudden, especially at 24 years, I mean, this is not a short period of time. Two amazing kids that are rock stars, big part because of their mom, um, and everything you've done with them. But excuse me, how do you then, the forgiveness of others is certainly one portion of this process, but almost in reality, isn't it the forgiveness of self that's the tricky one? That
Absolutely. That was the hardest part for me by far. I had said the words early on, I forgive him, but then there'd be some trigger like, oh, he just did this with the kids, or oh, he's engaged, or and didn't even tell his family. But yeah, so there were triggers, but you can get past the triggers, and there's yeah. I lost what my thought was, what you were saying, but remind me real quickly
Well,
what you were.
just forgiveness of self, I
Yes, so
mean,
self
we
forgiveness.
tend to, it becomes, I mean, you hear that a lot. Well, you just forgive them. I mean, if you're clinking the glasses together, it's like, knocking the poison into your own glass and then drinking it, I mean,
Yes.
holding on that anger and all that. It's pretty easy to say,
Yeah.
but it's not always the easiest to do.
Right. Forgiveness of self was by far the hardest point. And it was a weekend, probably 2.5 years into the 3 years, where I knew I was still bitter. It was 4th of July weekend, and I had been invited. Hey, Kelly, come to the lake, come out on the boat, whatever. And I was just determined that I was not going to leave the house until I was not bitter, and that I forgave what I thought was him. But what I found out by the end of the weekend was really me. And I read a book called Forgiving Forward that our mutual friend, Jim Gardner, actually gave to me. It was by Heibel, and he had given it to me about a year before, but this was the weekend that I opened it. And the hardest part was I felt like a failure and I wasn't forgiving myself. The person who's left feels very rejected. The person who leaves feels guilt and shame for breaking up their family. So I was feeling like a failure, like this shouldn't have happened to me. And there was something inside me that wasn't allowing me to forgive myself. And when I finally did, I really could feel it. I was burning myself. I was holding my own feet to the fire, punishing myself. And ultimately, it came down to, what did Jesus even come for? If I'm not going to forgive myself and he came the forgiveness of sins, why did he even come? And also, no one has been rejected more than Jesus. So I had a husband reject me, but wow, he took every rejection. And also, Jesus isn't rejecting me. And that's all that really matters. So those three things made a difference in the self forgiveness.
That's awesome. I mean, a great way of putting that. And I think we all come to that realization at some time. I know a concept I teach is there is no rejection. The only one who can possibly reject you is you. It's not what anybody says to you that counts. It's what you say to you when they stop talking.
That's right.
And again, knowing how fabulous you are, um, we, I know our group was certainly rooting for you and excited for you because you're awesome. And people need to know that awesomeness again. Um, and you have that life and so much to contribute to people. It's again why I wanted to do a show with you, because people need to know you who don't know you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm more passionate than ever. I mean, I've been 35 years a coach in health, fitness, nutrition, wellness, lifestyle, blessed to speak on stages all over the world, be on all the major networks, write some best-selling books with our friend Kyle Wilson. And I feel like I'm only just beginning. I have seen the pain of so many women walking through divorce that are friends and now clients, and I hate it. It's called a life event for a reason, and God hates it for a reason. A marriage is the first thing that he brought together. It was the first covenant, and it's the first thing the enemy is going to try and divide. If he can split up your marriage, now he's splitting up souls, he's splitting up finances, now generational divorce can I mean, it's just
Right.
awful what can happen. And some people never recover from that. And if they're not recovering, then they're staying distant from God. They're staying in some place of false belief, self-punishment. They're letting the enemy win, and that just is unacceptable to me. I wake up every day hating what God hates, and God hates divorce. He hates pornography, pedophilia. I mean, all the ugly, horrible, sinful things God hates, I hate. I want people to have what God has, and that's truth, peace, light, love, joy, abundance, all those things.
That's awesome. And so you've created this 8-week process, right? Intentionally fabulous. And I know, as you get through forgiveness and that gives you the freedom to act again, then it comes down to renewing your mind. How do you renew your mind?
Yeah, that is a great question. There are exercises that I give them to do. One of them is starting to think about the future. So your mind can't be double-minded being in two places. You can't have one foot in the past and one foot in the future. If you're thinking about the past, you're really living in regret. If you're thinking about the far future, you're really living in fear. So I get them to go about a year out and just imagine what their life could be like in 1 year. On average, it takes 3 to 4 years to get over a divorce. Some people it's 7, and circumstances can make it, shorter or longer. But I get them to imagine, let's say today was April 15th, 2022, that today was April 15th, 2023. And we were best friends who hadn't seen each other in a year. And you're about to tell me what the last year was like as if it already happened. So you're telling me about the vacations you and Peggy went on and the investment properties you bought and the house on the lake where the grandkids come and the new dog that you have, but you're speaking it as if it already happened. And if you start to do this at least 5 minutes a day to yourself in the mirror with an accountability partner, the more you do it, the more you start to believe it, the more detailed you get, the more excited you get, the more emotions that get into it. So it just helps them to start to imagine again. For some people, it's been so long and they're so
Yeah.
hopeless, they can't even dream at all. So that's just one of the exercises that I do to help them start to renew their mind, is thinking about a bright future.
I mean, I love that. I love the future casting, the vision casting, with where there is no vision, the people perish, so there's no doubt that that's great. So then you move into self-love and gratitude. How does that work?
Well, gratitude is a superpower. So I committed to not going to bed until I filled an entire page of a journal. And it is a big journal. It's not a little journal. And I could not fall asleep until I came up with a page full of things to be grateful for from the day. And it started really mechanical, like, well, I took my vitamins, I walked the dog, but then something shifted and I started going throughout my day looking for things to be grateful for, knowing I was going to have to fill that page at night. And I was like, okay, all right, well, I get to talk to Scott today. Not everyone gets to be on Scott Schilling Speaks every day. My goodness, what an amazing blessing that is. And I just started looking for things to be grateful for. And before you know it, I started to receive all these things. I actually started keeping track of the things that started coming to me and putting a dollar amount on them. Like, wow, someone brought me soup. Someone just sent me their new book. I was like, oh my goodness, like things just started to come to me because of how God's economy works. So that's just a superpower that gratitude is. And it gets you out of feeling rejected and guilty or shame or unworthy, unlovable. So gratitude will do that. And the self love, what is inside you is what comes out of you when things get hard. The greatest commandment is love. Love your neighbor as
Yeah.
yourself. Well, if I'm not loving myself, if I'm sitting here going, you're too old, you're too poor, you're too fat, you're too ugly, you don't, this, that, how am I going to love my neighbor? When things get tough and I get squeezed, I want love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness, self-control, all of that to come out of me. In order for that to come out of me, I have to put that in me. And a lot of times women after divorce, and men too, I have nothing against men. I love men. I believe they suffer equally. My heart right now has just been for women. I may work with men. I do work with men, but I don't have a program for them in the future. And so you have to pour in and be intentional about loving yourself, listening to affirmations. I know you're a big fan of Joel Osteen. My goodness, you can't not listen to 30 minutes of Joel and
Exactly.
not feel loved by God and encouraged. So find what your thing is, get out in nature, walk around the lake, take your shoes off and walk in the grass. Do something that fills you with love and joy. If you like to paint, be with pets, find something and go do it.
Yeah, totally. I had a conversation a couple days ago. I said, I know there were 10 commandments, but really there are only two. Love God and love your neighbor. Love and love. And so I agree. My platform, and one of the reasons again for the show is I'm going to do my part to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet. Lift each other up, treat each other the way that we should be treated, and share. It's if I've been granted capabilities to share a message, then who can I help when I share the message? How can I help them share their message? So again, I mean, I honor you. Thank you for being here, because your message is so important for so many. Well over 50% of marriages unfortunately end in this situation. And uh, boy, if we can do something coming out of it better, uh, that's better.
I agree. In the second marriage, the rate of divorce is even higher than 50%. And the third marriage, even higher, because wherever you go, there you are. So you take the same things with you. And unless you fix it, you're going to attract the same type of person and you're going to act however it is you do. If you're a control freak or perfectionist or an enabler or, whatever it is. So if you don't want to repeat those things, you really need to do the deep work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and obviously now what this has helped you do and what you also share in the program is finding your purpose. Not that you, from the day I met you, I knew you were on purpose, that you had so many different things, your expertise in health and wellness and working with folks to help them live a better life and all those things. But now it's even an expanded purpose, or maybe a more refined purpose. So you help others. That's part of this process as well, correct?
Yes, it's easy to get lost when you're going through divorce and really, ask yourself like, you may have been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years and now all of a sudden you're supposed to go out into the workforce and what you did was obsolete or you don't have the technology skills today or you're not sure what you want to do. So you need to figure out what's really meaningful to me. I could just go out and, get any job, but at this season, the number one age for divorce is 30, which is really sad to me. The number
Wow.
two age is 50. So at either age, you're going into another decade, another season of your life. We're only promised today. So what is it that you're here for? There's only one of you. God didn't make any mistakes. Like you're amazing. There is still a good plan and a good purpose on your life despite this divorce. It was a life event. It was a season. Don't make it a cycle. Don't stay stuck there. And it takes a lot of good question asking as a coach and for them to really ponder in what I like to call a heaven exercise, where I have them, I'll ask them an open-ended question and something might be, if time and money were no object, what would you do? Okay, now while you're lying there, imagine you're in heaven, whatever that looks like to you, and God is there, and you could ask questions and receive answers. What's coming into your spirit? And see where that journey takes you. And then I'll continue to ask them more questions to get more clarity. And, it may take some time. It may happen in a moment, but it could be something from the past that you always wanted to do as a little girl that you just never did, or something inside you that maybe was never developed that still lights you up. So it takes some deep work. None of this is really magical, but amazing things happen. I mean, there's so many stories of people that start careers, later in life and really do what they were designed to do.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. You said something that was phenomenally quotable, and so I want to make sure that everybody gets it and writes it down and attributes it to you and shares it. Don't turn a season into a cycle. I mean, that's phenomenal um, advice, wisdom, knowledge, because you don't have to. I mean, the fact is, there are people willing to help. There are programs like yours available now. Just looking at time, going, man, this was going fast. Really awesome. So, how do people connect with you for the Intentionally Fabulous program? How do
For
they
the
get to you to start to work with you and your genius?
Okay, well, thank you. Intentionallyfabulous.com is where they can actually find the program, which includes the 8 weeks. There's a healing guide that goes along with each week. There are, depending which program they get, 21 expert interviews that I did on there with the people that helped me, my breath therapist, my meditation therapist, grief counselor. So incredible people in there that are experts in addition to me. So intentionallyfabulous.com. If you're a woman going through any stage of separation, divorce, even years post-divorce, but haven't healed or just want to be better, I have a free private Facebook group called Intentionally Fabulous, same name. We talk about the hard things and we support each other, we laugh. So community is so important. So please do go there because people do feel alone when they go through divorce. And then my website is kellycalabrese.com where you can find my books and and all the things there.
That's awesome. Well, I would highly encourage everybody who is any women going through this season, this possibility, to reach out to Kelli. She's absolutely fabulous. Um, she's lived it and turned that into you loving yourself again and being able to live and forgive and go forward. And I congratulate you again on creating the program, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Scott. And I'll just mention too, if anyone wants to email me, I would love to hear from them. If there's something you heard on the show that just inspired you, touched you, you have a question, I answer every email. It's Kelli with an I at kellycalabrese.com. And Scott, you're awesome. I'm so thankful that you're bringing the show to the world. The world needs it. You're just so valuable, and I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining me. It's an honor.
Thank
And
you.
thank you all for joining us here at Scott Schilling Speaks. We'll see you again at the next event. God bless.